Greetings, good evening from Northern Virginia, close to Washington, D.C. I'm Brian Alexander, and this is another one of my Futures blogs. And tonight's topic, has the peculiar title of Ratchet and Frog. So, to explain, hello, I haven't recorded a vlog for a couple of weeks because of the holiday, which has meant non-stop family business and logistics, and the start of the semester, but I wanted to get back in the vlog house and recording. What I'd like to do as part of my vlogging practice is to start doing a series of vlogs which are short glimpses of the future, which give you a look at a particular trend or a possibility for the future. And again, these are vlogs, so they're mostly me as a talking head, along with talking hands and perhaps a quiet cat. But the idea is just for me to share the idea really quickly so you can think about it, and I hope find it of use. Tonight's session is called Ratchet and Frog, and this is about the climate crisis. So to explain, the ratchet refers to the ratcheting up of climate change. That is, right now, the climate crisis, global warming continues. We have already lofted into the atmosphere huge amounts of greenhouse gases. We're continuing to loft them, especially CO2, which means that the global warming mechanisms are continuing to race along and get even stronger, with all the side effects that I'm sure you're all familiar with in terms of aridification of dry areas, too much water for wet areas, sea level rise, the reduction of ice in the cryosphere around the world, and so on. And there's plenty of evidence for this. It's trivial to find. We can take a look at global temperatures, which have continued to increase over the past 2 years quite dramatically. You can take a look at the CO2 parts per million, which continues to rise. The evidence is plentiful, the data points are plentiful, and we can also point to very telegenic disasters around the world, which are either directly caused or significantly worsened by climate change. The reason I'm mentioning this is in many ways it's obvious. I'm a futurist, I work in the futures field, and for us, thinking about climate change is just part of what we do if we're going to be advising somebody on the future of commerce, the future of work, the future of war, the future of governments, the future of music. We have to include climate change in our forecast. That's simply part of the profession right now. Alas, that is not generally true. I've been reading a fascinating series of talks and substacks by the excellent political economist, historian, and commentator Adam Tooze, who's been asking us to rethink a lot of social theory, that is sociology, political science, international relations, by including the climate crisis front and center. And I think that's a lot of intellectual work that people have been doing over the past 30 years, but I think we're going to see that become more and more central, more and more important. That's going to take some intellectual and especially academic work. Meanwhile, the politics of our time are to step back from climate action in different ways. We've seen this in election after election, policy decision after policy decision, especially in Europe, especially in the United States. And these are major emitters. Now, one exception is China, and perhaps its One Belt, One Road allies, who are still committed to decarbonization in their particular way. I mean, they're still producing coal and burning, or rather, burning coal at scale, but they're also producing huge amounts of solar cells and electrical vehicles and so on. So overall, I think the moment is one where the past decade of climate activism has now fallen back. It's on the back foot, if you will, which means that the ratchet will continue. That our chance to really invest in direct air capture, our chance to fossilify our energy basis, our chance to really electrify things, we've passed that, and now this is going to proceed as a secondary event for our civilization. Meanwhile, the ratchet will continue. The other part of my title is Frog, and here I'm referring to the famous parable of the boiling frog, and that is, you put a frog in a pot of water and you increase the heat slowly, bit by bit, And the frog doesn't freak out. The frog notices only that the water is becoming perhaps pleasantly warmer bit by bit until the frog is boiled. And that is, I'm afraid, where we are in many ways. We are, to some extent, aware of climate change. I'm pretty impressed by Bruno Latour's late argument that the uncertainty, the deracination, the unmooring caused by the awareness of climate change has impacted people, including people who are anti-climate change. But I think in many ways we've stopped talking about it so much. It doesn't have a lot of media prominence. It has very little cultural prominence. And as I mentioned in politics, it's really reduced. And I think most people are aware of climate, but they see it as something which is either too vast or too incremental and far away to really be concerned about or to take action about. Meanwhile, the ratchet continues, so our frog, our civilizational frog, continues to boil. And we will either ignore the damages as they occur, and the damages are quite complex and take place across our civilization, or we'll simply accept them, either as a photogenic or telegenic crisis that we can celebrate from afar, or something that we simply expect as part of doing business. And I think those damages will continue, and they'll grow and eventually start degrading our civilization in very practical and evidential ways. I think that's the grim outcome, is that the Ratchet and Frog will proceed. I hope thinking about that model inspires us to do something different. Inspires us to take deeper and more extensive, more energetic action, given the urgency of the crisis. And that we is civilization, which means it's the world's biggest collective action problem. So the we is activists, the we is politicians, the we is academics and scholars like myself, the we is cultural figures, and so on. And I hope the specter of this inspires us to do something more significant, to decarbonize, to electrify, to change our habits, everything from our travel to our energy use to our food consumption. Well, that's where I'll pause for right now. I want you to think about this possible image of the world reacting to the ratchet, reacting to the frog in a productive way. In the meantime, let me know what you think. Leave some comments in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And also, if you'd like me to focus on any other topics for this future vlogging series, please let me know. In the meantime, I hope everybody is well. Those of you who are in the North Country, who are being clobbered by cold and wet, I hope you're warm and dry. And everybody else, I hope you're safe and sound. Bye-bye.